up to time you were saying whether you're not going overboard or not writing it. If there are any questions, yeah, that is what I was going to ask. So if anybody wants to, like, they can just put it out in the chat and we'll take up their question. And if not, sir, I have a couple of.
So he's welcoming Dr. Sanjoy Bhattacharjee sir from MM School Raipur and Guna Sekaran sir, Honorable Principal NPS Guwahati.
Very good evening, ma'am.
Namaskar sir, very good evening.
Namaste,
Such a
ma'am.
privilege to have you on this Edu Roundtable and on such an auspicious occasion, a very momentous occasion for all the educators at large. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure, sir.
So namaskar, hello and welcome to all the participants. And it's not the participants, all the educators on their very special day, the Teachers' Day. The clock has struck 5 and we feel at Rethink India that we should kickstart all the congregations well in time. So first and the foremost, our heartfelt and obeisances to all the educators who have joined in today. I would request Dr. Surbhi to formally introduce all our participants so far, and then we will initiate today's deliberation on a very, very important topic. And if possible, I would request for once, like everyone can come on the camera so that I will stop the sharing. And if everyone can come over, so it will be really so very nice. Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharjee sir, Anupma Rao ma'am, Guna Shekran, Shanmugan sir. So this way,
So
yeah. So maybe let others also join in and then we will formally introduce everyone. So the entire intent behind holding up this roundtable was that NEP 2020, we all have been going through, and it came at a time when the global pandemic was in the fray, and it was a time when India came up with its very ambitious and a futuristic educational policy. And the whole national capital, there is a whole buzz with India's presidency of the G20, and its closure summit is just round the corner. The national capital is almost again a kind of a lockdown with the agencies, so that because the head of the states from across are coming over. And if we just felt each G20 has a lot of work streams, and G20 had a education ministerial meet, a very elaborate 3 kind meets happened, and a document came out of those deliberations as well. And since it's a global matter, so the takeaways, the core principles, the core aspects, obviously they come at a very much higher level. So we felt why should not juxtapose both of them, because NEP is 2020 is now coming to fruition. And when we had conducted a similar such roundtable commemorating the 3rd anniversary of NEP on 29th of August, July, which was also the Punyatithi of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, or the eminent educationist. So core point which was raised by the eminent principals out there was the preparedness of our teachers. Because if we just go deeper into the NEP itself, and let me just come back, and because this verbose backdrop, what you are seeing is the core crux of it all. Like the way the spirit of the Indian Constitution, if we can see, is all across, it lies in its preamble. So similarly, NEP in its 66-pager, the abridged version, which came in 2019, when Dr. Manjul Bhargav had come up with a very elaborate 500+ pager policy. So everyone was dumbstruck. Oh, what kind of bulky document has come in, and they had specific action pointers. And Rethink India had the privilege to organize public reading of the whole bulky document, and we posted each of the specific action pointers and had a very elaborate discussions on that. So, but then abridged versions was calls for, and around 66 pages, but that again is a lengthy one. So NEP has around 19 operative principles if we go over there. And the 16th one, if we just bring our attention to it, it puts the entire policy, the execution, the operationalization of the whole policy, it lies centrally on the shoulders of the teachers. It says that teachers and faculty as the heart of the learning process, their recruitment, continuous professional development, positive working environments and service conditions. So while the other part of the service conditions and all, but the whole focus somewhere or the other, the agency of education has been brought centrally, has been brought very, very strongly on the shoulders of teachers. So this is a very important aspect of NEP. And that is why we are saying that NEP, Bharatiya jo Shiksha Niti hai 2020 ki, it fulfills all these 5 key takeaways of G20 work stream on education, and even goes beyond. NEP separately talks about what distinctively it talks about. It talks about the local context, while G20 is anchored into the phenomena of globalization. India, the Indic civilization, the Indian consciousness also had globalization, but the globalization has to be somehow anchored into, I would say, the local context, and it brings very, very strongly the local context in point number 13, the respect for diversity and respect for the local context in all curriculum, pedagogy, and policy, always keeping in mind that education is a concurrent subject. And the moment it talks about local context, the NEP principles also has a huge emphasis on multilingualism. Now, this is like, if you read, if you go to the European Union, European Commission's portal, they said that the language of European Union is multilingualism. So the 28 odd nation states across Europe, they take so much of pride in like French, German, English, Swedish, host of languages are intertwined as a European lingua franca. Somehow or the other, that culture, somehow that has still to come over there, and with a supporting technological tool out here. What point number 12 talks a lot about extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers. We have machine translation, we have beautiful applications which through which you can now learn functional languages in one go. And a host of Dr. Surbhi is a medical professional, and her research shows, and it's coming that if you're a polyglot, if you're a multilinguistic personality, the kind of cerebral development what you have, it goes phenomenally on a much higher level. So if we go, these NEP 2020 principles, they also have an interconnection. So I would say that, yeah, we have got a substantive quorum now. Dr. Surbhi, you can formally introduce, and then we can take on. Let's welcome our panelists today. And then
Namaskar. Yeah, we are joined by Sanjoy Bhattacharjee, sir, Honorable Principal, MM School, Raipur, from Chhattisgarh. We are joined by Madam Indu Khetarpal, Trustee, Salwan Educational Trust and Salwan Group of Schools. We have Guna Sekaran, sir, Honorable Principal from NPS Guwahati, all the way from Assam. Welcome you all, distinguished edu leaders, on board the Edu Roundtable today. And
Yes.
wishing you all a very happy Teachers' Day. This is the day when we are commemorating the Teachers' Day in its all its splendor, because teachers are, as the NEP 2020 also emphasizes, the teachers are at the heart, faculty are at the heart of the learning process. And as principals, you are the, the Guru Tattva majorly. So welcome you all. Yeah, over to Raghav.
Yeah. So let me just finish off the initial prologue, and then I will invite each of the eminent panelists to speak on the topic. So if we see the G20 takeaway out here, the first and the second one, education plays an enabler of human dignity and empowerment globally. I think there is a very direct mapping up to point 6. All the 6 points are over here, where the whole goal of education, recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each student. It starts with that, the NEP principle, by sensitizing teachers as well as parents to promote each student's holistic development in both academic and non-academic spheres. NEP has a lot of correlation between its own principles. We see now multidisciplinarity and holistic education across the sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, and sports, for a multidisciplinary word in order to ensure the unity and integrity of all knowledge. Now, point number 5, it goes directly to the second takeaway from G20, which is resilient, equitable, inclusive, and sustainable future through education. What is not being said so very elaborately in these vision documents, in these takeaways, is with the advent of technology, with the kind of global, I would say, a takeover by the big technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, a lot of things which are coming over. We are marching towards the era of VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, the word we all witnessed as to how the COVID pandemic, small time introduced, and so these kind of volatilities in one within very much interconnected era. Future ready means handling VUCA. In one word, we say future ready. The skills are one part of it all. You have to learn one skill or the other. You have to keep on upskilling yourself wherever you go. But you have to handle the VUCA factor phenomenally well. And that is going to be the new normal. That like change is the only constant which is going over there. So that's where the G20 people with that vision, the future, if it has to become resilient, from sustainability, the word has gone to resilience, and equity and inclusiveness and sustainable future through education. So that's where NEP has talked a lot about it. It has talked about no hard separations between arts and sciences. So this is all the dignity and future readiness. Both of these parameters have been brought in quite well, if we say. The highest priority to achieving foundational literacy and numeracy by all students by grade 3rd. That is what NEP envisions, and that is where the human dignity and empowerment. because in order to play with the toys, the tools, the technological things without which we don't have an existence today, the financial transactions are happening through the UPI part of it, through the mobile phones. So the elemental, these foundational literacy and numeracy has been emphasized phenomenally well. And the social inclusion part of it all, that everyone, irrespective of age, gender, socio-economic or cultural background, and those who are facing physical, mental, or other learning difficulties or special needs have access to quality, inclusive, and equitable education and training. So apart from the equitable part of it all, NEP has brought about the concept of ample flexibility. Point number 3, we go. Because for example, I remember Professor H.C. Verma, the H.C. Verma concepts of physics professor. He once visited IIT Kharagpur and he said that our education system has somehow, it was way back in 2005, 2002 or 3, that our education system is more of a Bata shoe company. So there is not much of a flexibility. So depending on the evolutionary curve or the social background or the economic background of the learner, the education system should respond rather the other way around. So even the right to education had a clause that nobody can be debarred from an age-specific, I would say, standard, admission to an age-specific standard or to that matter. So somewhere or the other, this flexibility has been put phenomenally well pertaining to age. Now, how it will unfold, that is for you, the educators. These are the, something have been laid out in the policy, some things have to be built upon. So this inclusivity part has been handled in a big way in the flexibility clause, in probably the use of technology, because technology is really giving a lot of flexibility. I cannot go and attend, so can I do the recorded lectures? Can I be assessed in my time? Asynchronous learning, can it happen? In fact, we had done a series of master classes during the COVID pandemic, and a lot of our honorable principals, NEP was not formally launched till that time. It was June 2020 around. So they were saying, okay, maybe we can experiment with this online mode of learning further in some way or the other. So I think it's now things have got a bit stabilized. We have, so maybe these innovations, most of the schools would be coming forward. And so the fourth part, what it says is education is not about academic learning, the G20 takeaway, but also about developing life, technical and vocational skills to make all learners. Again, the term future ready has been brought in over here, as well as lifelong learners. Now, this principle, this G20 takeaway has been amply brought about where they are talking about no hard separations. This is one part, the no hard separations between arts and sciences, between curriculum, extracurricular activities, between vocational academic streams. So this is one very important part. And then multidisciplinarity and holistic education across sciences and social sciences. I would, I think we have got Dr. Chitra Joshi. I would request Dr. Surbhi to welcome her.
We welcome Dr. Chitra Joshi, ma'am, Regional Director from Zealand. Welcome you, ma'am, on board this roundtable. Wishing you a very happy Teachers' Day.
So this part.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So this fourth point, if we see, this is the integral education what NEP has tried to bring in through many of its clauses, many of its principles over here. Like even the flexibility part has it. I am more of a visual learner. The theory of multiple intelligences, the Howard Gardner's theory. भारतवर्ष में कभी भी चीजों को टुकड़ों में नहीं देखा गया. हम लोगों ने 56 भोग की बात की, एक समग्रता की बात हम लोगों ने हमेशा से की है. तो जो नॉलेज के साइलोज हैं, somehow the other that is required. But I give you an example. We had a roundtable with very senior ISRO scientist, and we said that the landing of Chandrayaan on the south pole of the moon, the HRD minister made a comment that NEP is the Chandrayaan moment for India. And just see that soon after the landing of Chandrayaan, we have launched our Aditya L1. So it happens in a big way. So in that discussion, it came about that space is the convergence of all the human endeavors over there. All the human disciplines, they come together. Now, for example, a geography teacher at times they feel, oh, bhaiya, mera to subject bada humanities ka hai, it's so boring. But just imagine if you introduce the Google Earth in your classroom, or even the ISRO's Bhuvan, for that matter, it's evolving. It has a lot of, and Delhi Police is using mappers of Map My India in a big way. So the satellite imagery, which is making geography so very interesting, and it is because of the computational foundation which we have out there. So somewhere or the other, the point 16 and on this Teachers' Day Roundtable, it is the agency of the faculty who has to break their silos first. And they have to feel that I am at the center of this entire discourse. I might be a language faculty, but see, so much of emphasis on language out here. Without language, you can't even comprehend the numeracy part of it, the philosophical gyan of mathematics, the vigyan of mathematics, the scientific aspect of it, and eventually the pragyan of it all, the absolute wisdom, the further manifestation of it all. So gyan, vigyan, pragyan, bhasha mein hi sannihit hai. So that is where the role of language technologies, which are coming in a big way, the semantic analysis, the entire artificial intelligence word, what is coming through, the computational word is looking for computational linguistic people. So if your linguistic framework is so very profound, you can be a much, much more skilled personality out there. So, this beyond academic learning, what NEP has also put up right on clause 1, academic and non-academic spheres. So, and the fifth part, the fifth G20 takeaway remains that education for sustainable development and lifestyles, UN promoted concept as well. It was launched by the Prime Minister as well, to be one of the accelerators to advance the progress towards the achievement of SDGs. Now, G20 takeaways have, in the computational language, it has taken within itself the SDGs, the 17 odd, the 2030 agenda, what is also called, along with digital transformation, women-led development, and green transition. So when it comes to lifestyle or sustainable development, a lot of values are important. And thankfully, this lovely NEP 2020, the verbose, the prolonged one, it has not missed out. Ethics, human and constitutional values, they have been enrolled in a big way. Empathy, respect for others. Now, these are the values wo jo kehte hain na ki culture cannot be taught. It can only be caught. हमारे यहाँ आचार्य देवो भव की बात जो होती थी कि आचार्य जो आचरण करके, since it's a Teachers' Day, so the whole focus what we felt is the entire success of NEP rests on the shoulders of the educators, the real champions in the classrooms. That unhi ko ek single acharya, the single person who is multidisciplinary oriented. I might be a faculty of social sciences, but I have inroads to all kind of technology which are going over there. The human impact of technology over there, I can address. I can be a specialist in one domain, but then I'm hooked on to the entire knowledge universe at that level. So that is perhaps the whole purpose, the intent of NEP, and what we see that it goes beyond the G20 takeaways. These are the countries who are controlling the 85% of it all. So Bharat ek Vishwaguru tha, to I think NEP is somewhere a manifestation of it all, that we have really gone beyond by incorporating local context. Assessments, fine, a lot of talk has been there, but life skills, the life skills here we are taking, so they are saying communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience. So point number 10 maps both to 5 and even the future, the sustainable future, because communications, cooperation, teamwork, these are the soft skills which all the employers say we want this kind of employability for our employees, for our, I would say. So I think they're also putting up in point 14, the full equity and inclusion as the cornerstone of all educational decisions to ensure that all students are able to thrive. So abhi jo ek exclusion ki baat aa rahi hai ki bhai, are the students gadget, this was a big challenge as soon as the pandemic broke down, ki online education, are all the families equally endowed? So that was one area. So the full equity and inclusion, point 14 is out there in 3, ki how inclusion can be brought about. now a Geo 700. This was one of the phones which we used at Rethink India very spectacularly. ये 700-750 रुपए का फोन होता था. इसमें WhatsApp भी है, इसमें YouTube भी है, तो आपको 70,000 के iPhone की शायद आवश्यकता ना पड़े. So the whole technological continuum, how we can bring digital support, digital thing to our educators in a big way. And technology, I think, is one of the focuses, but they have just summed it up in one aspect. But how to incorporate EdTech? EdTech from the first principles, perhaps NEP has dealt with very, very deeply. Use any of the platforms, any of the cheaper ones where data is your own. Your faculty members have the content, technological tools, and you can move from one tool to the other. The presentation tools, we should rather say, rather than a proprietary technology, to an open source. Bhai, jo acha karega, mere ko notes lene, I can go to n number of notes. So that kind of a knowledge, I would say, continuum is required. And most importantly, Bharatvarsh ka jo ek bhav hai, jo NEP ne bahut अच्छे से, and in fact, Professor Manjul Bhargava, we had the great good fortune of felicitating him with Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee Commendation for Education in 2019. He incorporated this Mobius strip, which was an infinitum. He is an exponent of mathematics and music both. So that's the lovely combo. तो ये जो मोबियस स्ट्रिप ने बात कही, ये भारतवर्ष का जो ज्ञान परंपरा का चरैवेती की जो भाव है, वो हमारी एनईपी ने भी लिखा है कि कंटिन्यूअस रिव्यू ऑफ प्रोग्रेस based on sustained research and regular assessment by educational experts. Now, as soon as the word experts come into place, we at Rethink India feel that each of the educators is an expert in his or her own right. कहीं ना कहीं वो मिथक, वो जो उलझने हैं, वो जो colonial thought है कि some competent authority would come and give us. So a lot of initiative taking thing has been brought out here, and we have the eminent principals here. And कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग यह भी बात कर रहे हैं कि national education policy will be successful only when a school education policy or a operating arm of it all will come through. तो राष्ट्र वो यथा पिंडे तथा ब्रह्मांडे हमने G20 और इंडियाज NEP के बीच में तारतम्य तो आपके सामने स्थापित कर दिया. But then drilling it down, education, yes, it's a concurrent subject, but 700 से ज्यादा जिले हैं. Even in a state, I would say Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya sir, he would say that how diverse even Chhattisgarh is. Even Assam has its own zonal divisions, and then districts, they have their own distinguishedness, and that is where the local context come into play. And I would like to take 2 or 3 minutes more कि अगर भारतवर्ष को 5 trillion economy का dream achieve करना है, तो it will happen only through education to economy. And education not being the software coolies of the word, but interpreting our own local culture, tradition, rather than the civilizational foundations what we have, and translating it into the way how we consume our food, our clothing, our entertainment, because these are the basic economical zones. Today we are all consuming from a globalized economy where a handful of people are producing, and the rest 99.9% people are perhaps consuming over there. So we have to become a creator economy, and that's where the local context come into place. Our district has its own geography. Our district has its own, I would say, civic institutions. District has its own history. आज हमारा inverted pyramid है कि अगर मैं PCS की परीक्षा में जाता हूँ, MA level पर तो मैं अपने जिले का या अपने राज्य का I would be reading the history or geography of it all, but not at the primary level, where भाई ये मंदिर क्यों बना, ये यहाँ का जो स्थापत्य है ये ऐसा क्यों हुआ. I think because that education system was devised by the colonialists. They wanted a different kind of people, but inside out, near to far, and that is where this local context wala part has been put up very, very importantly as a principle. And last but not least, this entire NEP, it rests on the teachers. Then these principles have to go to the students at large. हमारे भारतवर्ष में एक और समस्या क्या है? We start venerating things a lot. एक महात्मा जी ने बड़ी सुंदर बात कही कि भगवत गीता तो बहुत अच्छी है, तो बहुत अच्छा शनील का कपड़ा लाए, मोटे थान वाला, सबसे महंगा मार्केट से, और उसको कस के उसमें से बांध दिया और उसको ऊपर टांग के रोज उस पे दिया बाती और अगरबत्ती करते हैं. तो we start fossilizing even a working document. I think a great head start has been made, and we have tried to establish the equivalences that not just the core principles of the G20 education takeaways, but NEP really goes beyond. जो हमारे यहाँ G20 में वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की तो बात कही गई, but वसुधा को कुटुंब हम तभी तो मानेंगे जब हम अपने स्वयं के कुटुंब से प्रेम करेंगे, हमारा खुद का परिवार, हमारा शैक्षणिक परिवार. The near to far consciousness is very important. और जैसे कि NEP के बहुत सारे clauses, we start to draw the correlation matrices out here, or I will feel the honorable principals who are here and who would be listening to this roundtable later on, that each of the teachers, probably they have to come and create their own personal manifesto of implementing this in their own classroom. So that is the kind of flexibility. If they get out there and beyond the exam-centric thing, I think it's out here. So with this, I would stop, and maybe we would invite our honorable panelists from various parts of the country who have joined in. Maybe I would request Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, who comes from the east of Bharat, Chhattisgarh, the Raipur, its capital, from School, Raipur. So Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, sir, your comments and your observations, and your inputs, sir. We would also like to welcome Dr. Ajay Singh Sahab. He has Dr. Surbhi.
He's Vice Principal from Divine Public School, Bhiwadi. We are also joined by Dr. Chitra Joshi ma'am, Dr. Indu Khetrapal ma'am, with Guna Sekaran sir from NPS Guwahati, as mentioned earlier.
So,
Thank you so much, ma'am, and sorry for the delay.
No worries, sir. It's so good to have you on board, and happy Teachers' Day to all the educators, edu leaders. Yeah. Sanjay Bhattacharya, sir, I think the camera has got stuck somewhere, sir.
I think I'm having some internet issue. I don't know what is going on. My camera is getting stuck time to time.
Hear you, sir. Very well.
Sir,
am I audible?
You're audible, sir.
Yeah,
you're audible, sir. Very much, sir.
Okay. First of all, very good evening to Raghav sir and Shilpi ma'am and all the dignitaries on board today. Happy Teachers' Day to all of us. I was listening to Raghav sir. It is always a pleasure to listen to you, sir. You always focus on the other side. It is not the way generally the people speak. Your speaking is something different. You always reveal something behind the screen or behind the background. So it was really an honor. What we were finding it out that G20 Summit in Education and the NEP 2020 is actually collaborating with each other to enhance the education system, not only in India, but across the world. India always believe in one concept, that is, education is the parameter. In Sanskrit, they says that Vidyattancha nipattancha naibutullam kadachanam shadeshi pujyate raja vidyan sarvatra pujyate. That means you guys all know what it means, that education is the parameter for all of us. And since decades, we were actually following the education system in modern days that is mostly dependent on the paper and pen education system. It is mostly depending on the certificate-based education system. We were somewhere down the line, we were actually getting deviated from the education system that India has produced long back. And now the scenario has changed because this G20 summit, there is one point in this G20 that education is not only the academic performance, it is actually the overall development of an individual human being. It focuses on the ethos, it focuses on the empathy system in our country, and it shows the light to the foreign countries as well. When we talk about Indian education system, first, I would like to mention that Gurukul, if we look back the period of Rig Veda or the period of Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Kathopanishad, Ishopanishad, any one of them, if you see, the majority of the time we will be able to see that the students were always considered as the children, the child of the gurus. They used to live with them. The reason they used to live with them because it was not only the transcript or it was not only some kind of theories or practical. It was mostly the life skills that they were actually teaching and guiding. we are coming back to that same platform again. We are again talking about the skills development. It is not only what we learn through our textbook, but it is now mainly what we can implement in our real life, what we can apply in our everyday lifestyle. So this is a huge transformation in education system. I was a part of this NEP 2020 from Rethink India program. We had a session, and it was really a privilege to listen to the other people when they were talking about the implementation of NEP 2020. Now, in the same forum, G20 is also saying the same thing. Education plays as an enabler of human dignity and empowerment globally. We forget about the citizen of India. Now it is not relevant anymore. We are talking about the global citizen, where the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam concept is coming one more time in a different area, in a different platform. We are thinking about develop the pedagogical aspects of education throughout the countries, throughout the world. So it is not only about the Indian education system, it is about that world education system. It was a privilege of mine to visit a school in Finland. I was in England for many years, and from there I visited one school in Finland. And I was mesmerized the way the education system works in there. There is no curriculum proper, there is no classroom, there is no timetable. They don't have any limit of the classroom that it is 45 minutes, or it is 50 minutes, or it is 40 minutes. The way the students want to learn, the facilitator provide the same thing. Teachers' word are not used in that country. They use the word facilitator because the teacher has the power to ignite only the brilliant mind and the human potential in each and every one of us. I also worked in England, the education sector in England. There also I have seen how a stress-free education can actually work. The students from England, they come to school up to 7th standard with just a folder bag. And what they carry in them? They carry some papers, some pencils, erasers, pen, that's it. And they carry their water bottle, that's more of it. From grade 8 onwards, the children are allowed to take their textbook home because the concept is up to 7th standard, the school should provide the education inside the school building itself. So stress is not there, it is a fun learning activities. And now, if I compare what India was before, not now I'm talking about a couple of years before. We were mainly focusing on the result. We were mainly focusing on the academic transcript at the end of the academic year. Now the portfolio rubrics and the portfolio assessments are in use. And the beauty of it, the children are actually evaluated based on their everyday input towards the education system. It is not only the academic performance, it is way more than that. Previously, the CCE pattern is now replaced by this portfolio assessment and the rubrics that we are actually focusing on. So I believe that that is the most important thing in India, that we are again trying to lead the world in our educational mind and our pedagogical approaches. I thank Rethink India Group for giving me the opportunity to share my views on this prestigious day. And I wish all the other people a very happy Teachers' Day ahead. Thank you, Raghav sir. Thank you, Shulpi ma'am, and all the dignitaries.
In fact, hearing to Dr. Bhattacharya, it comes that it is perhaps the global education policy, perhaps the way NEP has come over. The chairperson of the whole committee was a space scientist, Dr. Kasturi Rangan, and the chairperson of the drafting committee was Dr. Manjul Bhargav, an exponent of music and mathematics from Princeton. So quite a global thought process has really gone through, and it has rekindled the India's civilizational ethos in one way or the other. And as we are talking about it, as Dr. Bhattacharya was saying, the whole Vishwakarma Yojana, which has come over, the hands-on skills-based economic overturn of the country, I think that is also on the anvil to handhold from, I would say, from the educational quarters to the employment spaces over there. So thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Probably would now like to invite Madam Indu Khetrapal, a veteran in the educational space, the trustee at the Salwan Educational Trust.
Madam Indu Khetrapal just called me. She's in another meeting and she wants to attend this meeting, but she would not be able to be on camera and speak. So
okay, fair enough. So let's get in Guna Shekharan Shanmugam sir from NPS
yes.
International,
Guwahati.
The East of India perspective, from that Dakshin Himalaya space, the southernmost periphery of Himalayas, the Brahmaputra. तो ज्ञान का जो ब्रह्मपुत्र वहां बह रहा है. So we request Shanmugam sir to grace this occasion.
Thank you very much for all the participants and the organizers. Sir, you can see my video. I cannot see from here. Is there any issue?
Yes.
Spotlight.
You can see the video. I cannot see here. Right? I cannot see any video. It's okay, no problem. Thank you very much for organizing, especially on this special day. Okay, there is one thing I would like to speak about. There is one of the important points. Always, in most of the schools, we used to see one phrase as lifelong learners. Okay, you can see in the vision, mission, and all the places you can see it will be written as school is going to make lifelong learners. And it is one of the principle or the criteria we can say that is noted here, and that is very important also. Okay, but there are certain ways that we can take, not certain ways, even only one way that we can give it to the teachers and the students, and so that we will achieve these lifelong learners. Okay, otherwise it will be in the form of writing only, and we will try in many ways. And my point of view is here, we have to create awareness about the research. That means the true research from the student side as well as from the teacher side. And most of the time you can see the students used to do the research only in certain age levels. Maybe in the higher classes we can see, or in the middle classes you can see. When we go to the primary or other classes, there's something.
We lost him somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, maybe. No worries. Let's get Dr. Ajay Singh sir meanwhile.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, I am driving and attending the meeting too, so
Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
God. Okay. Dr. Chitra Joshi.
Yeah, camera you can, if you feel like you can address.
Dr. Chitra Joshi, ma'am, would you like to speak a few words, ma'am? Express your views. Okay.
So I think Shanmugam sir was talking about lifelong learners, and I think that is the G20, one of the takeaways in point number 4. And NEP has also brought it in terms of conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exams. Many of our concepts we see what we move for. It was more katha hum log sunte hain Mahabharat ki Guru Dronacharya was giving a lot of lessons, and he had a test of something of that sort, and leaving Yudhishthira, everyone else could repeat the lesson very verbosely, very expediently. And when Dronacharya went to Yudhishthira, why you could not repeat it across, he said, I had not assimilated it deep within myself. So he had gone to that level of pragyan, that level of deep internal understanding, But many a times this conceptual understanding, because we have this learning for exams largely, and the examination structure, the agency. In fact, COVID pandemic gave us that one great breakthrough in autonomous evaluation. Maybe we will take a bit of a more time when more data points can come. That has been withdrawn. But CBSE had given the agency of evaluating even the board examinations to the faculty members. And that is what happens in all the premier institutions across the globe. So the challenge might be that we have different levels of schools, but when the educator himself or herself is certifying about the learning outcomes of a student, I think that should be taken in a big way. And one of the bigger challenges, it was also there, the handshake of NEP from schools to the higher educations, how it will happen. Perhaps the expansion of the higher education ecosystem in the country has become so much that from seven IITs, we have now 23 of them, and people are leaving IITs and going to other institutions. So there is no one success, and then you are some big shot or you are long shot. That is not there. Higher education system has expanded phenomenally well. So I think many of the actions are going well in tandem to make each of these principles come over there. I think Gunashekharan sir has come over. So research was a very important part. In fact, I remember hearing Professor Kapil Kapoor that when Yudhishthira used to roam, he used to have 1 lakh Brahmins with him. Now, Brahmins were the epitome of intellectual scholarship. It has nothing to do with the other I would say political discourse concurrent in today's era or later, earlier. So this means those level of research scholars were there in our country, because Gyan ki jo sadhana hai, ISRO, if you see, those people have been working so very intensely. वो क्या उस धन का करेंगे, वो तो ज्ञान विज्ञान और विज्ञान से भी आगे उन्होंने तो प्रज्ञान को चंद्रमा पे उतार दिया. So that kind of a knowledge tradition we used to have. And that is why the scholar, हमने कहा ना, भारतवर्ष में आचार्य की जो पदवी थी कि सम्राट चंद्रगुप्त आचार्य विष्णुगुप्त के चरणों में नतमस्तक रहते थे, ये भारत का संस्कार था. I think we have got Gunashekharan sir. Sir, over to you. We lost him again as well. So he's trying a bit of connectivity issue. So there is a lot of talk about the continuum of curriculum at all levels of education, from early childhood care. एक हम लोगों ने experiment किया at Rethink India. We took the mathematics syllabus of 6th, 7th and 8th. We put it in 3 columns, and we felt and we saw that many of the chapters are verbatim. छठी में जो maths का syllabus है, उसी का एक extended variation is coming in 7th, and that is coming in 8th as well. So जो integrationist continuum है, if it can be shown to the students at large, जैसे कि honorable principals ने कहा कि इसका जो दारोमदार है वो टीचर्स के हाथ में है, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल टीचर्स के हाथ में है. बट टीचर्स से भी आगे, जो टीचर्स से अगर बात करें हम, तो वो कहते हैं कि भाई पेरेंट्स हैव अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर ऑन अस एंड वी हैव टू make them study for the exam so that their transcripts are on the higher side. But अगर यही बात, ये जो correlations है, we just did a very small correlation between G20 TakeAways and the NEP 2020 principles, and we can see, oh, ये तो एक ही बात कर रहे हैं, एकम सद विप्रा बहुधा वदंती ही की बात है. So if we can do this kind of correlation between the curriculum of yearly curriculum with a kind of a segmented 3-yearly one, 6th, 7th, 8th, we will see that it is of the same level. NEP has brought about that 5+4+ whatever is there. So we can show to the kids, if we can show the metadata. In fact, हमारे एक जो समस्या आती है, and people talk about like in advanced studies की macros run the world today. Being future ready means we have to make our students, their vision has to be interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and if they can have with the contemporary affairs, if they can link with the historical escapades, and that is where वो जो सर गुणाशेखरन सर कह रहे थे कि भाई lifelong learners, बच्चों को lifelong learners बनाने के साथ साथ the attitude of our teachers to become lifelong learners is so very important. And at Rethink India, we are also maybe I may present it to the forum out here till Gunashekharan sir comes in. We are also launching, using this forum to launch a community of transformational teachers today. Now, let me just share with you the creative of it, and I would request Dr. Surbhi to read it out and explain it across. Just a moment. Yes. So, in fact, we were doing a lot of research as to what makes a transformational teacher, and we found that 23 traits have been identified for being a transformational teacher. And Dr. Surbhi, over to you. This one you can explain and take it forward.
Yeah.
And then we will. Yeah.
Transformational teachers, as it says, that transformational teaching involves creating dynamic relationships between teachers, students, and a shared body of knowledge to promote student learning and personal growth. From this perspective, transformational teachers are intellectual coaches who create teams of students who collaborate with each other and with their teacher to master bodies of information in due fulfillment of the following Rigvedic aspiration.
So this is, yeah. Please go on.
Go on.
So this was the Rigvedic aphorism we have all studied, or not studied, I would say we have heard about it. But this is the most modern research on teaching. This is like they have to become intellectual coaches, creating teams of students. One of the factors which we somewhere lack, and at Rethink India, we are doing an experiment in a remote and rural locale, where we are teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th kids in tandem, creating groups of them, accentuating peer learning. So, 8वीं का बच्चा ये देखता है, अच्छा मैं 6ठी से ये पढ़ के आया हूँ, तो he is extending his learning to that level. The 7th one is having a bit larger macro vision, कि मैंने 6ठी में ये पढ़ा है और 8वीं में ये पढ़ने जा रहा हूँ. तो metadata, as we call it in computer sciences, education के subject का जो forewords हैं, जो metadata है, जो indices हैं books are so phenomenally well. Perhaps that's an area which somewhere was there in our country, which was there in our own tradition, which somewhere NEP has brought about. Ki, may we move in harmony, speak in one voice, let our minds be in agreement, just as the ancient gods shared their portion of sacrifice. May our purpose be the same. May we all be of one mind. In order for such unity to form, we offer a common prayer. May our intentions and aspirations be alike, so that a common objective unifies us it all. So that is what it is like. Modernity and ancient culture, they are all juxtaposing, and NEP has come as a fulcrum for that matter. And transformational teachers assume the traditional role of facilitating students' acquisition of key course concepts, that is for sure, but to do so while enhancing students' personal development and attitudes toward learning. I think NEP is giving that leeway, that elbow room to the teachers at large. How it will get implemented is, again, I would have to rely on Dr. Bhattacharjee and Shanmukham sir. He was talking about that. And but at least at the principal level, at the structural level, a beginning has been made. And transformational teachers accomplish these goals by establishing a shared vision for a course, providing modeling and mastering experiences, challenging and encouraging students, personalizing attention and feedback, creating experiential lessons that transcend the boundaries of the classroom, and promoting ample opportunities for reflection and reflection. Many of these traits are there of very eminent faculty members at the higher education institutions, by some of the doyens and veterans from whom we had the great good fortune and privilege to study. They used to spend a couple of lectures initially to create a shared vision, not to solve numericals at first, but the why of it all. I think that learning pedagogy has to come back at the K-12 level itself, when the students, because those are the years when students have to really charm themselves and
I would also like to add in here that something, a broader perspective of what G20 takeaways on education and the new education policy and the current environment in which students are igniting their minds and thinking on points, that when we talk about Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, so the G20 takeaways also say that we have to empower students to think globally, for human dignity and empowerment. We have to empower the students to think globally, so that we are not we're not just a citizen of one country, but we are global citizens as well. I think this is a very important tenet, which is a factor in the making of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, which Prime Minister Modi is so very emphatically advocating. And the current educational system, bolstered by the NEP, is also taking the students to think, from various dimensions, not just national issues, but then, like we have also launched this G20 Young Sherpas activity, wherein we are encouraging students in lines of the MUN. So somewhere G20 takeaways on education and NEP 2020 are, inculcating that that empathy in the students, that the global consciousness, that human consciousness, that is a very essential tenet. Because when we say lifelong learners, or we say, making learners future ready, we're not just educating the mind, but we are educating the soul as well, and that is something which was there in the Gurukul system. If we say education 1.0, which was there initially in our traditional systems of learning, where the guru by the acharan, acharya by the acharan only, fostered certain values, imbibed certain values, inculcated certain traditions into the students by living in the Gurukul, as Sanjay Bhattacharya sir said. So this is as one observation, that NEP 2020 and G20 takeaways are somewhere, kind of bolstering the blend of the traditional esoteric wisdom with the futuristic know-how and education in all its splendor.
You mentioned a very, very important point. I think we have got a message.
Chitra Rushi ma'am regrets to leave.
So what I was mentioning is that if you see the NEP 2020 principles and its and after hearing Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, I said maybe this can become a global education policy. Perhaps it can be not NEP but GEP 2020, because there is nowhere it is in the Indian context or a limited thought process. If you see the ethics, human and constitutional values like empathy, respect for other. So these are the global values which need to be inculcated. And जो बहुत एक important बात आपने कही है यहाँ पर, कि भारतवर्ष में बाह्य जीवन के साथ साथ आंतरिक जीवन को भी एक महत्व दिया जाता था. तो हम, how we empower ourselves deep from within, and that is where the future ready stability will come from, when these values, these values are inculcated, the spiritual ethos of India, the civilizational ethos of India, they have a global manifestation. So somewhere we are standing on a kind of a cusp, or kind of a transition point where India is saying कि globalization taking cues from Bharat, जिसने हमेशा से एक वैश्विक दृष्टि से बात की. हम लोगों के यहाँ पे सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना की बात की जाती है, तो उसमें ये कभी नहीं कहा जाता कि राजस्थान सुखिनो भवन्तु या छत्तीसगढ़ सुखिनो भवन्तु. It talks about सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना, और उसमें तो जीव मात्र का कल्याण हो. We are talking not just about the humans, but even the animal kingdom and even your botanical spaces, जो वनस्पतियां हैं उनका भी संरक्षण हो, जो विकास की धारा हो, वो जो विचार हैं, I think those things have somewhere come very subtly, because we are still having a global challenge, a geopolitical equational balance is on the ploy, and on the coming 9/11, the fabled 9/11, which is separated by 108 years, 9/11 1893 and 9/11 2001 separated by exactly 108 years. That very day, Chicago and then the World Trade Center, Swami Vivekananda's address in 1893, and the World Trade Center demolition, the terrorist attack in 2001. So civilizational ethos of India, which have a global manifestation. I think NEP has those germs, and that's again a roundtable. We are giving an invite to you all, where we will be discussing the global manifestations. The G20 would have been over, and because India has always talked from a cosmic perspective, even when सोमनाथ साहब वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट कि भाई हमारा जो चंद्रयान उतरा है ये आईपी हमारे लिए नहीं है अकेले, वी आर डूइंग इट फॉर द होल वर्ल्ड पर से। तो भारत का जो चिंतन रहा है कि जीव मात्र का कल्याण हो, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः हो, आई थिंक दैट इज द ओनली एंटीडोट। कंटेंटमेंट की जो बातें हैं, सेटिस्फैक्शन की जो बातें हैं, हमारी फैमिलीज में जो इनग्रेन्ड है ये सारी वर्च्यूज एंड वैल्यूज बहुत सहज में है। आई थिंक एनईपी ने केवल उसको रिससिटेट किया है, जो कॉलोनियल सिस्टम हम पर थोपा गया था उसको कहीं ना कहीं ब्रेक अवे किया है, और जो एक ज्ञान की अनंत धारा रही है चरैवेती की, एंड इन अ फ्रेमवर्क। अब टेक्नोलॉजी और हम हमेशा से प्रोग्रेसिव भी रहे हैं, वी हैव नॉट सेड कि भाई अब हम कंप्यूटर्स नहीं, हम we are adopting the most modern technologies to evolve and taking things forward. I think this is all, and most importantly, last point, this is very vital. Sanmukhan sir was talking about research and continuous review of progress, but light but tight. यहाँ पे हम कहीं ना कहीं एज अ सिस्टम फॉल्टर करते हैं। जो मैं भी बात कह रहा था कि जो सीबीएसई ने एजेंसी दी कि इंटेग्रिटी, ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड रिसोर्स एफिशिएंसी ऑफ द एजुकेशनल सिस्टम, once this comes, and this prerogative somewhere comes on the principle कि भाई अगर हमारे पास एजेंसी है तो अक्रॉस 28,000 समथिंग स्कूल्स जो सीबीएसई के ही हैं, बाकी स्टेट स्कूल बोर्ड्स के हैं, तो हमारा जो असेसमेंट है भले ही वो समेटिव हो, फॉर्मेटिव हो, this integrity has to come into place, this transparency has to come into place कि भाई आपने जो किया है वो चित्रणा, and this somewhere will be helped by technology in a big way. So this is I would like to add upon on the globalization part. Maybe Dr. Bhattacharya would like to comment upon and summit upon on this because he looks at it quite closely, this very part of audit and public disclosure. So Dr. Bhattacharya, इस पर आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे, and then we will wrap up today's roundtable. Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Surbhi, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? I think it's.
I think it's a very forceful conclusion which we are, drawing from this roundtable, that to sum it up, that NEP 2020, India has been at the forefront of it all as the Vishwa Jagat Guru, and this is the Chandrayaan 3 moment for the educational narrative. And I completely agree on that. And NEP 2020 is very powerful, and it culls out those nuggets of educational pedagogy and wisdom, which is a combination of the esoteric past and the technological know-how from the future. And how G20 takeaways on education, we have discussed that NEP 2020 is in fact an elaboration of the 5 goals which G20 takeaways we have all just discussed, and the summit which was held based on the educational ministerial meet of G20. So I think we are marching ahead with full enthusiasm and vigor to make our students future ready, lifelong learners, and students' holistic development in both academic and non-academic spheres is the very first point of NEP 2020 says. And we can go on and on, but then the essence of it all is that to create global citizens and with a human consciousness. I think that's the central, that's a very important point.
So let's conclude today's roundtable on this momentous occasion of Bharatiya Shikshak Divas. And we would be continuing these engagements for this whole month, which will conclude just a month on 5th of October, which happens to be the International Teachers Day. On that day, we will be felicitating the transformational teachers from all across. A very elaborate framework, a self-reflection, as we have talked about it, because the success of NEP, and it would not be, if we juxtapose both of them, that was the title, G20 and NEP, we just juxtapose, it becomes a GEP. So NEP transcends to a global education policy, because आज के ग्लोबलाइजेशन के युग में जो अपूर्णता का भाव है, एक इकोनॉमिक चिंतन जो चारों तरफ चल गया है कि this particular commodity competitive advantage has to marry with comparative advantage. एक कहीं ना कहीं एक आत्मनिर्भरता की जो बात है, एक इकोनॉमिक सेल्फ रिलायंस की बात है फॉर कॉन्टिनेंटल नेशंस लाइक इंडिया. On many of the frontiers, like our government has somewhere banned the import of a lot of computers, like, okay, you produce it out here, we will evolve our technology. So lot of narratives come over there. We will be having multiple roundtables bringing development to the educational discourse. How our educational institutions can catalyze the developmental thinking at the local level, because the agency of the educator is so very important, so very predominant. Somewhere or the other, that agency needs to be exponentiated. उनका जो प्रज्ञान का भाव है वह बहुत मुखर रूप से हमें उसको हिलाना पड़ेगा कि इस प्रकार से जो भारत के 700 जिले हैं, भारत इज नॉट अबाउट दिल्ली, बॉम्बे, कैलकाटा, some 6 odd megapolises or the 60 odd cities, mega cities we say. Bharat is 6 lakh villages, 6,000 plus kasbe हैं इस देश के अंदर में. So our organic design is different and inside out. The moment we will become civilizationally proud not just in a false pride, but knowing with facts and figures. Gyan ki parampara se udbrat, matlab we will still find the local knowledge traditions inherent in every nook and cranny of the country. So that will remain our objective, that will remain our commitment at Rethink India. Because we feel that the fifth estate remains the first and the foremost estate. Rest of them work under them, rest of the are different. So जो colonial सोच है, जो ज्ञान की परंपरा से हटाके कि गुरु ब्रह्मा, गुरु विष्णु, गुरु देवो महेश्वरः, गुरु साक्षात परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. With these words, I pay my humble obeisances to the gurus, the teachers, the educators who are really building up this grand nation, which are having the knowledge in their own head, in their acharan, and we will keep on serving their cause. We'll keep on trumpeting their very role, their primacy role. All the advanced countries, if you see the role of a professor, the role of an educator is much more than that of an administrator. एक शिक्षक का जो रोल है, और भारतवर्ष में वो था, इसके लिए उदाहरणों की कमी नहीं है. But this needs to be trumpeted and blown again and again and again. And NEP 2020 has really given us that chance to expand and exponentiate that role. With this, I bow down to all the gurus on this Teachers' Day. And Dr. Surbhi, closing words.
Yeah, so this is to thank all the edu leaders, our honorable principals, and all those who are watching us on YouTube Live. This is to thank you all and wish you all a very happy Teachers' Day. And let us take this sankalpa to bolster our educational system even more strong and stout, and take it to the one earth, one family narrative. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Rethink India, namaskar.